What up, Bitcoiners? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? The sun's bright. It's up. We're good. We're good. We don't have a new board today. Weird schedule last night with. Oops, let me make sure this mic is not getting whacked around. Just gonna change my little getup for 1 second here. Pause that so it doesn't make too much noise. All right. Sorry about that, everyone. I wasn't sure I would get some feedback. Sometimes when I re-listen, I hear that if the mic is not well placed, you get some banging when I move around. So I don't want to have that, right? We don't want such low quality audio that the thing can't be listened to. So you can see the sun streaming through onto this beautiful morning. You know, Bitcoin's running. We're good. We can have our coffee and talk about the news. Tastes like winning, guys. We're winning, right? How do we know we're winning? Well, lots going on. The first two winning stories I have are Eliza Blue, who we spoke about for, it's been months, right? She's been one of our sources on this show. Now she's sort of getting a rising celebrity. She, of course, is one of the big voices against the child exploitation issues that were on Twitter for a long time before Elon Musk took over. And she helped raise awareness about the problem. She herself was a victim when she was younger. And she's been getting a lot of mainstream media attention now because of all the success and the people talking about it and what Elon is saying and how he made it priority number one and all of these things. So yesterday, the Washington Post decided to honor this great no, she's not American, but this great British freedom, protect children. They really went out of their way. This is the Washington Post. You know, you'd imagine such a gift to the world to help protect children. What do they have to say about her, right? The Washington Post. Blue did not reply from an email to the Post seeking further comment, instead tagging the reporter in obscenity. And it was because the reporter kept trying to talk to her about her own experience as a victim and decided to make the story about that and whether or not she could talk about it and what it was like. Nothing about her work on Twitter these days, nothing about Elon Musk joining her spaces to help give amplification to what's going on, right? None of that, right? So Eliza says, I never thought in my life that I would accomplish anything so great as to get a hit piece written about Elon Musk and myself in the corporate media. This is probably the biggest honor I'll ever receive. Thank you to all who supported. Well, Eliza, we did support this effort, and we are glad you've earned this badge. She's not the only one who earned one of these badges yesterday. Mike Solana, who is also one of our sources on this show. So Eliza Blue, one of our sources, Mike Solana, one of our sources, he received a very similar reward. There was a shit poster on Twitter making a list of all the people that Elon Musk has responded favorably to. And I guess it's one of those things where if you have an interaction with a bad person, that you actually get all the qualities of that person. So if this person is retweeted by Elon Musk, then naturally they had a mind meld and they all think the same thing. So if you criticize one, you have to criticize all of them. That's the logic here. So that's what this person is saying. So he puts a big list of names that of the people that Elon Musk has retweeted as if it's a bad thing, right? So Michael Saylor is on the list. What a jerk. He's got Cernovich, Libs of TikTok, of course, Cat Turd. The list goes on. Viva Fry, all of these people, I guess. Mark Andreessen, the Critical Drinker, really bad people. I guess that's the point of the list. So Mike Solana on the list, you know, just like Eliza Blue said, thank you, right? He said, new evil people list just dropped. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Genuinely would not be here without your support. So another person we help get results, right? Anyone who's on one of these lists, we're happy to help you do it, right? Now, charges have come down in the Sam Bankman-Fried case. It looks like multiple hammers dropping. We've got the SEC. The Southern District of New York Court is going to be handling these things. The CFTC has come in with charges. He was arrested by Bahamian police yesterday. But, there's all that going on. But, luckily, the mainstream media got a few more nice pieces on him before the hammers dropped. So I got to share them here, right? Motherboard Tech by Vice, who has done good work in the past. They covered when I use an op return script on Bitcoin in 2015 through the Senate. I had the Senate pass a statement which we put into Bitcoin's blockchain that said, Senate of Canada believes Satoshi's invention deserves a light regulatory touch. And they were one of the groups that picked up on my story. I was trying to create a news story out of the event, and they picked up on it. They were clever then. If you go back and see Motherboard from Vice in June of 2015, you'll see me in there, and you'll see my story in there. Now, I guess they decided to. This is a real headline. Okay, I'm not kidding. This is a headline from yesterday. This is really from Vice. No shit. Sam Bankman-Fried is trying to find the guy who did this. It's real. It's real. Sam Bankman-Fried is trying to find the guy who did this. And, he was supposed to testify today. And of course, SBF was saying, wow, it might not fit my schedule. I'm really busy. He spent the whole day yesterday on Twitter Spaces arguing with people. And apparently he was arrested during one of the Twitter Spaces. So he said, I got a meeting. I got to go. And it was to get arrested. But CNBC was trying to pump up the appearance today where he was supposed to testify. If you remember when Maxine Waters was blowing him some kisses, that was from last year, but he was supposed to meet her again today. It's not going to work out, I don't think. But when they were trying to get some hype going, CNBC, they said, his image was tarnished in the company bankruptcy. His image was tarnished. How is he going to get it back, right? How is he going to get it back? So that's what we got. Now, let me see what I got. Some quotes here. I got some comments here. Just want to get to them. You know what time it is, you dig? Yeah, it's time. We're drinking our coffee. Bitcoin is running fine. Thanks, Shell family. Bitcoin Pilgrim. Yeah, it is a beautiful day in Vermont. Sunny, bright, not as cold as it was yesterday. Morning, CK. Muslim Bitcoiner, assalamu alaikum. Looks like SBF might not make it to Bitcoin 2023. Yeah, we were gonna invite him if he would go into a dunk tank. We would like to throw things and drop him. I mean, he's so looking like he loves the attention. Good day, Thomas. Good morning, Justin. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, P-Man. Steve Paris, we are winning. We are winning. Good morning. Morning, freaks. All right. Morning, Dex. All right. So Twitter files number 5 dropped last night. I don't want to spend too much time going over all the details. You're going to hear a lot of people do that today. So what I just want to mention is sort of the basic thrust. I read her, 30. So Barry Weiss gets number 5. This is her second time. We've had 2 from Matt Taibbi, 2 from Barry Weiss, and 1 from Michael Schellenberger. So we're on the number 2 from Barry Weiss, and it's about the days after January 6th, about what was going on with Trump and what happened and how did they kick him off. So she looked directly into that. She went into the Slack messages. She teased out all the internal dialogue that went on. What it looks like to me is there was an insurrection at Twitter. That's what it looks like. It looks like there were a group of people that wanted this done and wanted him out, Donald Trump, and did what they had to do. So she mentions there was only one dissenter, and this quote is amazing. It was from a fella who says, "Maybe it's because I am from China," said one employee on January 7th. "I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation." She mentions that was one of the only voices. So in the afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published the open letter from 300 Twitter employees to Jack Dorsey demanding Trump's ban. "We must examine Twitter's complicity in the what President-elect Biden has rightly termed insurrection." So this logic ends up becoming the main thrust. And what they end up doing is stretching themselves into pretzels. They say that when Trump uses the term American patriots, what he really meant was insurrectionists, just like what the Twitter staff here had said about in the letter to Dorsey, that these people were insurrectionists. And so they teased out the meaning of coded language, I guess, that he was suggesting that American patriots meant the insurrectionists, that they were the only insurrectionists, or sorry, that only the insurrectionists were the patriots. So in the end, they had to use mind reading, right? That's what they did. They mind read the president and decided what he meant was something that was bad enough to fall under their terms of service and give him a strike. Because they say it's, they even say, don't really see the incitement to violence here, right? They said, another staffer agreed, they don't see, this is in the Slack messages, when they mention the American Patriots term, they say, we don't really see it there. And again, I am also not seeing clear or coded incitement in the Donald J. Trump tweet, wrote Annika Navaroli. I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no violations. So in the end, what they did find was this term American Patriots. They bent that into it. And then as well, when he mentions that he didn't plan on attending the inauguration, they said that that was a sign that because he wasn't there, it could be a target. So mind reading, right? Complete and total mind reading. Now, the reactions have as much mind reading in it. So let's just stop talking about Twitter for 1 second and what went on over there, and go to the reactions now. The reactions on Twitter, it's been on for days, right? So we have consistently talked about how mainstream media has been handling the story, ignoring it, vilifying Elon Musk, attacking the messenger, very typical and predictable responses to this type of cognitive dissonance. It's almost too big of a story to compute, so there's natural recourses that the human mind will take, which we predicted 2 weeks ago and have now followed that course. But they're not the only people with the crazy reactions. The ones who consistently see crimes in Yoel Roth, Jack Dorsey, all these people are also sort of missing the mark. I'll explain. So that Twitter colluded with the FBI. Look, it looks like they were invited. They were invited, right? The Twitter folks were acting as if they were on the same team as the FBI. Now, the FBI situation is totally separate from what I'm saying right now. I do see criminality when it comes to the FBI, not on the Twitter staff, right? Not. And I'll explain why. The idea that Twitter should be a common carrier, but that's not the case. They shouldn't be censoring because they're a common carrier. It's a Section 230 stuff, right? But we're not there, so it doesn't matter. Jack Dorsey lied to Congress when he said he didn't shadow ban. Well, if there isn't an actual policy against Republicans on paper, and there was this visibility filtering, and it was according to these criteria, in his mind, I think he's telling the truth. And intent is everything here, right? Intent is everything. There's no direct evidence of shadow banning for political reasons, but the mafia talk, right? Mafia talk, that there was mafia talk. We'll do this. Well, mafia talk looks closer to what we saw in the actual Hunter Biden laptop story, right? The Hunter Biden laptop story has stuff like 10% for the big guy. That's mafia talk. There was nothing like that in the Twitter files so far. There were some coded messages in the sense that they would talk about something that I wouldn't recognize. But if you have the liberal mind virus, that would seem normal to you. So it wasn't coded talk. It was open. They were just talking about normal things in their mind, right? Maybe Twitter employees had good intentions, but that's, we can't go by people's intentions, right? It must be illegal, right? Well, again, looks like some of these guys are doing what they thought was their job, right? Twitter's work on behalf of Democrats would be an in-kind election contribution, right? There's people who just see this when they look at the Twitter files now, right? All the Republicans out there, crime everywhere, everyone has to go to jail, throw these people in jail, right? I'm sorry, but the like-kind political contribution thing is really dumb, because if you put Twitter into jail, well, what about MSNBC? What about Fox? What about Fox? Right? MSNBC, CNN, Fox, Twitter, all the same. If you're with a group of people in the same political party, it becomes normal to see the world the same way as them. And therefore, intention becomes everything in this case, right? Did they intend to do these things or not? It's a major question, right? Major question. So I continue to not see criminal culpability on the part of Twitter staff, employees. They're gonna look at Yoel Roth more. Go for it. I think everything deserves to continue to be looked at. I just don't see this obvious case of criminality. On the FBI case, I do, however. What I do see going on at Twitter. So forget about the guilt and innocence for a second, right? Let's just think about them as human beings doing their jobs. What I do see is strangely related to a coincidence that happened today. Twitter, now that they're moving away from the Donald Trump stuff, are moving into the censorship around COVID. And this morning, Dr. McCullough and Dr. Malone, two sort of celebrity doctors around all of these issues, were reinstated onto Twitter. If you remember what Dr. Malone was famous for, and I'm not sure it's what got him kicked off, but it was the idea of the mass formation psychosis. You remember the mass formation psychosis stuff back in February? Dr. Malone went on Joe Rogan and talked about mass formation psychosis. His explanation of it at the time was this. When you have a society that has become decoupled from each other and has free-floating anxiety in a sense that things don't make sense, we can't understand it, and then their attention gets focused by a leader or a series of events on one small point, just like hypnosis. They literally become hypnotized and can be led anywhere. So when this came out, everyone was saying, oh, mass formation psychosis, it's a new thing. It's all these people who want to get the jab. They have mass formation psychosis. That's why they think everything is great with medicine, and that's why they believe it, and that's why they don't want to hear you say it's bad with medicine. I can understand how that's all true, right? But what I spoke about and what I talked about on this show back then was mass formation psychosis is not a new thing. The way he describes it here sounds like under these conditions, you get mass formation psychosis, right? No, it's all the time. It's the operating system. We all have it. All of us, all the time. Even Bitcoiners. Do you know how much signaling there is between Bitcoiners about the shibboleths, let's say, about how you can talk about shitcoins, how you can talk about this, how you can talk about that? That's a form of mass formation psychosis, right? People getting together, thinking about something, and developing rights and wrongs and things that are onside and offside. It's just the normal wavelength of people coming together and forming a community around things. And always, if you put 5 people in a room around anything, you're going to get one person who isn't with the other 4. The 4 people will find a way to disagree with the one person, even if they're right. I mean, we've seen this stuff in casual hanging out, right, with friends. Like, go camping for a weekend and you'll see this kind of thing. What happened at Twitter was mass formation psychosis. If you are around Democrats all day, every day, without one exception, you're going to think right and wrong, up and down is exactly what you see. You're not going to see stuff related to drag queen, whatever as dangerous, because you see it regularly. Why would it be dangerous to you, right? You see that stuff where you're from. You don't have the same calculations of risk, danger. It's not as obscene to you. All these things happen. And what happened at Twitter was you had a bunch of staff who literally hypnotized themselves into seeing terrorists and an insurrection and all this bad stuff. So were they criminal in what they did? They believed it. That's the difference here. They believed it. And if you believe it, it changes everything, right? If you believe it, your culpability changes. It's the way it is. And mass formation psychosis isn't just limited to people who had vax regret and vax guilt or wanted to follow the mandates or whatever it was, right? It can go in every direction. Now, it's not a it's more prevalent, exactly as Dr. Malone described here, when you have anxieties, right? When you have anxieties and things don't make sense. It's definitely more prevalent. And of course, Bitcoiners came together around these conditions, right? We came together around the conditions of the mass formation psychosis that had grown around the dollar, right? And understanding what was going on with the economy after the great financial crisis. That's how everyone came together. You know, when I was working in the Senate, we did our first major study. My first job out of law school was to look at the financial crisis and understand it. So that was Michael Lewis. I came across Michael Lewis's book, Hank Paulson's book, On the Brink. You know, of course, The Big Short was I read it as it came out because it was part of my job. I had to understand what's going on. And, you know, looking at what happened, a lot of people realized the system was irreparable, right? It was irreparable. And watching people try to fix it, to me, already over 10 years ago, was a type of mass formation psychosis. That's why it was so easy for some people to coalesce around Bitcoin, because the opposite, the idea of continuing what we had, just induced too much anxiety, and still does. I mean, do the challenge, try to imagine the world remaining on the petrodollar and the USD, everything as it is, all the institutions that we created in World War II still humming and operating into the future past this World War III that we're in. It's impossible. It's possible. It's a hellscape, right? It's hard to imagine it because it's so bad, because it's so bereft of any form of inspirational capacity. It's a bunch of rich people who own a bunch of infrastructure and commit psyops on the population all the time, right? What we really see going on in the world today is a series of billionaires, and it looks like Elon Musk is an upstart in this gang of billionaires that we don't even really see, right? We don't really see these people. And each of them, it's almost like the Harry Potter war, you know, the war in Harry Potter, where the normal people, the muggles, only hear rumors about the wizard war, right? There's only some rumors, and there's some natural disasters, and how did it happen? And it gets explained away, and we don't know. But behind the veil, there are these powerful wizards that have factions and are all vying for power. And well, it's, you know, I would say the Harry Potter thing is fine, but the analogy ends in that it's just good and bad. It's a little more like Game of Thrones in the sense that there's a whole bunch of people trying to do it. And each of them uses types of psychological warfare in order to advance their cause. And Elon Musk is no different. He just happened to get his hands on one of the most powerful tools in the world. Not the most powerful. I still think that TikTok is, by orders of magnitude, more hypnotic than the forces that we have in Twitter. Twitter just is a denser environment, and going to be more dense, right? The short tweets, the videos look like they're going to expand. The long form section Elon's going to put in. He's now brought in this publishing news aspect, right, with the Twitter files. So, but this is a billionaire like any other, right? And the psyops happening, you can see he's making an effort to stop it, because it didn't end there yesterday as far as what Elon's doing and who the next fight is getting picked with, because Elon jumped into John Brennan's tweets yesterday. Who's John Brennan? John Brennan is one of the 51 confirmed liars that signed the Hunter Biden disinformation letter before the election. John Brennan is the guy who they bring in to do all of these smear campaigns in the mainstream media. So ex-CIA head comes in and puts his talking points down, which is Trump is a crazy Nazi and he has to be stopped, and now Elon Musk is this, and that's what he did, right? So when Fauci, when Elon Musk first said, my pronouns are prosecute Fauci, and the whole world went crazy, John Brennan said, Fauci is a national hero who will be remembered for generations to come for his innate goodness and many contributions to public health. And then he quote tweeted himself, good people in democracies need a more effective way to prevent attention craving, emotionally immature and highly devious individuals, especially those of means, don't be rich, you fuckers, from being socially, culturally, and politically destructive. We certainly seem to have far too many of them lately. And Elon Musk replied to him, your house is glass. Your house is glass. Indeed. So we have Glenn Greenwald here talking about how the new Republican House is going to be going into these 51 known confirmed liars. Because, you know, John Brennan gets like actual information. He knew it was a scam because we found out recently that the FBI knew it was a scam, right? In the original Twitter files, they knew it was real, and that the disinformation counter argument, the counter programming was a scam, and they signed it anyway, right? So there is no more debate whether these people are involved in psychological manipulation. There's just no debate. I'm not here to even say, oh, maybe, and we'll see. These are criminals, 100%, right? So forget the Twitter people for a second, right? As I said on the show yesterday, I would trade all the Twitter staff for the J6 people who are still in jail and just call it a day. They're just a truce, right? They're just a truce. Trade, prisoner swap, like the Russians and Americans did. Just prisoner swap and forget about them, right? Because we're missing the point. That's formation psychosis, right? These people are victims. I don't know about the Yoel Raw thing. I've seen all the other tweets and the burner accounts. So of course, individuals might deserve to be looked into, and I'm not arguing against that, right? And if people want to take more of a look at Dorsey, go ahead. What I see is an insurrection inside of Twitter, pushed by mass formation psychosis amongst the staff because they just believed, 100% believed they were doing the right thing, right? I forgive them, I guess is what I'm saying. I forgive them, right? As we should forgive most of the victims of the fiat industrial complex and the PSYOP machine built to sustain it. We have to. How are we going to move forward if we don't forgive these people? Now, what's important is we understand that the FBI's role and national security infrastructure's role is not the same. It's not the same, right? There was a reason why the Allies shaved the heads of Nazi collaborators. There's a reason why they put ceremony behind their embarrassment, right? And these people need to be embarrassed. That's the only way forward, right? I would go so far as to say we need to get the old electric chair going, right? But I'm against violence, and I don't really want to see that. But death penalty, if it's put on the table for these guys like Brennan, I'm okay with that, right? I'm not going to say I'm hoping for the prosecution to score the point. You know, I do want to get to a world where we can get away from death penalty and all this stuff. But in this case, let it fly, man. Let it fly. You know, let it fucking fly. Because these people are conducting some of the worst types of manipulation. You're taking anxious people. You're taking people who are confused, and you are literally leading them into the guillotine, right? A psychological guillotine. And it's unacceptable. And you've got Glenn Greenwald who's pointing it out, right? Here's Glenn Greenwald talking about it. 2 weeks before the 2020 election, 51 security state operatives signed a letter affirming a clear lie. The Biden archive was Russian disinformation. Almost all were CIA, including 3 of Obama's CIA directors, blah, blah, blah. Once these CIA, NSA, and DHS operatives, among them the most unscrupulous career liars and war criminals, John Brennan, James Clapper, Michael Hayden, and Leon Panetta, signed unto this lie, they handed it to Politico's Natasha Bertrand, now of CNN, who uncritically spread it, right? And now, of course, the New York Times attacking Elon Musk about all of this, right? This is from the New York Times yesterday. Elon Musk publicly attacked Dr. Fauci and Yoel Roth, Twitter's former head of trust and safety, over the weekend. His jabs may resonate with far-right audiences, but they are likely to deter with advertisers. They're going after the advertiser thing again. Remember the advertiser attack they tried to plant on Elon a few weeks ago? All the advertisers are leaving. It's going to crash. Twitter's not going to make it through this week. Oh my God, he fired the fucking marketing department. What are they going to do? Well, here, Lomez at LOM3Z talking about this. When you read news items like this, the phrase likely to deter wary advertisers is not an emotional surmise, but a command to advertisers to be both wary and deterred in exactly the same way a hypnotist tells a patient you are getting sleepy. This is an important trick for how cathedral nodes coordinate messaging to one another through suggestive predictions about other actors' behaviors that indicate not necessarily what they think will happen, but what they want to happen, right? What they want to happen. So there you go. If this isn't proof, right? And now who's melting down against Elon online? We've got John Brennan, right? This glass houses thing, they got to get this guy. Right? Clapper and him, they got to go. They got to go. They have to be part of a public trial in the future in order for us to work through the psychological abuse they've helped initiate, they've helped promote. Right? America has been undergoing psychological warfare for years now. It's been a long time. And we got to peel it back right to where this stuff started. I don't know how far back we can actually go, but wherever these people came from, wherever John Brennan and James Clapper came from, we got to go back that far at least and find out where and when they started scripting this type of hypnotic behavior for American people. When they exactly started this. Now, we've seen stuff in the 80s. We've seen, we've mentioned that video that Ed Snowden has shared about the journalist saying, "Oh, I regret what I did, but here's what I did." I get about 80% of my misinformation into the mainstream media outlets by doing this, right? So here's where it starts to become interesting, right? Here's where it starts to become interesting. All this Fauci stuff, right? All this Fauci stuff. You're finally getting, with this mass formation psychosis discussion, with understanding psyops, understanding the corruption of information systems, how governments involve themselves in information laundering, in the manipulation of our worldview. I mean, literally our worldview manipulated, right? Here's Doc Anarchy on Substack. Dr. Anarchist. Great name. I love Dr. Anarchist. And I'll recommend everyone go check out this tweet thread. It's absolute must reading. He follows the money on some of the most critical healthcare studies in American history. So let's start, right? He's got 4 big ones. Healthcare this is his first tweet. Healthcare is a captured industry. Can you trust the science? No, the science is fake, and I'm going to prove why in this thread. Don't fall for the scam. We'll break down 4 major landmark studies in medicine and healthcare and see who funded them. So the first one is the major type 2 diabetes study. The major type 2 diabetes study. It showed early and aggressive therapy with various drugs and insulin significantly improved small vessel disease, right? Why can you not trust the study, he says? So every one of them is, he puts the study out, says what they got out of it, and then goes into how it was bullshit, right? So it was funded primarily by Novo Nordisk, Pfizer, and Bristol Myers. One of them makes the insulin, one of them makes the other thing, one of them makes the other thing. These companies made billions selling these drugs. If you've ever wondered why these drugs are pushed instead of lifestyle changes, this is why. The studies aren't credible, but they were used to justify the choice in prescription medicines. Instead of weight loss, exercise, and dietary changes. The next, of course, the most famous one that I think all Bitcoiners know is one of the biggest orange pills out there. One of the biggest ways to wake up is the food pyramid, right? The project by the US Department of Agriculture was intended to give Americans a framework for healthy eating. It lasted over 10 years. I remember it being a lot more than that. And of course, they all advocate for high carb consumption. What's the problem? It was entirely paid for by the agricultural industry, and that was it, right? The systolic BP intervention trial. This was the landmark study that showed blood pressure could have improved outcomes with the, what do you call them? The, what are they called again? The statins, the statin study, right? No, sorry, the statin one was the, anyway, these were the 4. Just go check out the thread, right? Just go check out the thread. I'm not doing a good job of describing them all. But the thread has 4 major studies. It shows how 4 types of drugs that Americans, I mean, every old person takes statins for their blood pressure. They take some insulin, diabetes thing that helps keep the blood sugar down. So this really just describes all of the funding, where the money came from, and what the outcome was, like which drugs ended up becoming part of our system, and how each time it was an excuse to not actually talk about healthcare, not actually talk about the type of stuff you need, right? So that's where it's headed, right? It's headed to a real awakening in healthcare in particular. I think we're going to solve this healthcare problem. I think we're going to be able to figure out exactly what forces were at work. And Bitcoiners have a big role to play in that, in the sense that we already figured out the psyops around food. We were one of the first groups to join in. You're seeing the conservatives now, the right-wing people, the people who have nothing to do with Bitcoin, are into this no seed oil thing. I saw Michael Knowles yesterday, who's part of that Daily Wire media group with Ben Shapiro and all that. Even he came out and said this new anti-seed oil thing for right-wing conservatives is a fad I could get into. But where did the fad come from, right? We've been leading these cultural charges for a long time because we were the first to really get that the whole thing was upside down. And it's not a tweak here or a tweak there. Like I said, when we got involved and knew we had to change the entire system because it was corrupted, early Bitcoiners and even people getting into Bitcoin today. I mean, that's always the reason why people want to get involved, right? It's that anxiety, that free-floating anxiety that's out there about how something's not right with the financial system. And a lot starts to make sense once you put on a Bitcoin lens and now are actually literate and not just blind and trying to feel your way through and in the end pray to anyone who has a hypnotic power, right? Anyone who's got one of hypnotic powers can dominate you, really dominate you. So I had one more point that I wanted to get to. This was a Michael Malice quote about everything that's going on today with Fauci, Brennan, all these people getting nervous. We'll see, right? This is from Michael Malice. Much of the enemy class is quite literally learning disabled and cannot understand many things. We will win because, among other things, they are not impressive people. And I think that's true, right? I think a lot of these folks have inherited a lot of structure and they've inherited this hypnotic machine using the mainstream media and the national security apparatus to push information into the marketplace, but it's breaking before our eyes. So that's why the censorship thing is so important, right? If censorship doesn't happen, then they're going to lose. They're going to lose, right? So I was going to make a prediction, and I just can't remember what it was about. We got hallucinations, psyops, Eliza Blue. Oh, yeah, here's where it is. Here's where it is. So, big news yesterday or over the weekend, when the Chinese leader, visited Saudi Arabia and MBS and all this stuff. And now it looks like they're going to put the yuan petro market in Shanghai. So you'll be able to trade yuan for oil. Big news because it's the largest energy market outside of USD for oil in the world, which is easy to do because there was never an energy market outside of the USD at all. That's how you go to war. You fight with that monopoly on the market, and suddenly aircraft carriers showed up at your doorstep launching F-35s off the top of them. It happened to Libya and it happened to Iraq. So you don't do that, right? You don't sell oil for euros 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You don't screw around with the monopoly on the market, because that's what made the dollar, right? That's what well, other than other countries taking it as a reserve, it was one of the major aspects of what made it the dollar. So my prediction is, and I think it's going to happen, I don't think China is going to make through a lot of this stuff, and that the BRICS is going to come together and put this new currency together to be an oil market to compete against the USD is a good start. I just think that Bitcoiners are going to finish the job. We're going to inherit whatever they build because it ain't going to work, right? So it's our job to make sure we support that market after the nationalized currencies make it unworkable, right? They're not going to be able to come up with their own currency between them. We're their currency. We're the one that's going to help create that market. So if you start putting the math together, right? We're not talking about tweaks to healthcare. We're talking about a complete flip of our healthcare system. We're not talking about tweaks to our real estate and, you know, how we pay for houses, what they're like, what they look like system. We're talking about a complete flip of it, right? That's one of the most interesting things of the Yay 2024 campaign that a lot of people aren't talking about. They're still caught up in the crazy spectacle, the mass formation psychosis that he is performing in order to antagonize and gather attention, right? Because remember, in Kanye's case, the first thing he has to do to persuade people to his cause, which is an extreme different type of candidacy, is to get attention. And when you're banned from all social media, you've got to be creative to get attention. And I haven't seen anyone more creative than him to get attention once you've already been banned. But if you read the more lucid parts of the campaign, if you read that article that was written on Tim Pool's website, you'll see they're talking about vertical integration and redesigning cities, using the analogy of Steve Jobs and the iPhone to talk about how we design places we live, and then that's never been done. And so we've got a complete changing of housing. We've got, with the nuclear fusion news, you know, we still don't know if that's real. As I mentioned on the show yesterday, we'll see. I've fallen for that 10,000 times in my life. So maybe 10,001 will be okay, and it will be the real one. I think it will be, though. I have a feeling. I do have a little bit of a better feeling this time. But it doesn't matter. We've got the small modular nuclear. We've got innovation everywhere. We're going to completely change the energy matrix on Earth. Energy is going to become abundant, and we're going to use way more of it than we ever did. I mean, way more. So we've got energy changing. We've got importantly, with all of this Fauci stuff, with all of this, with the types of conversations we're about to have, with this new playing field that we can talk about mass formation psychosis again. I'm in disagreement with Robert Malone in the sense that it wasn't just this one-off. It's all around us all the time, and it's nothing new. But people are talking about it, which is great, right? Which is great. And it will lead to a better understanding of healthcare and food and diet and how exercise and all that is really the most important policy initiatives, you know. So we're on the brink here, guys. We're on the brink. We're on the brink, you know. I missed a lot of quotes. I'm seeing everyone's talking about milk. Statins are pure evil. Joe, never sell it. Okay, I think I'm back. Locked forever. I tell you, we need a merge of money and speech where you can post whatever you want for X amount of stats. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Oh, I see. We're talking about. Justin says Elon is not going to protect free speech. Yeah, I'm not counting on him to do that. Expectations need to be tempered about what Twitter will be moving. Forward. Elon doesn't like pseudonymous accounts. Suppressing them will suppress free speech. It could be. Yeah. It could be. I do think, you know, again, I want to always, one logical fallacy everyone had with the Jordan Peterson thing is, I don't think he means anonymity in general. Right? That's a separate subject. Like Satoshi wasn't on Twitter, right? So if you ask the question, anonymous accounts on Twitter, Satoshi isn't really part of the equation or the conversation, right? I understand. Then we should ask, has there been anything useful from anonymity on Twitter? I think yes, 100%. You know, being able to say things in at work and all that. But there is still another category on Twitter, the no profile pic, like Durgigi, I think, right? I'm going to use him as an example. That is someone who's technically anonymous. Technically, we don't know their name and their face. However, they're not anonymous. They're on Twitter every day. They have a large account. They sell products. They do all that. So I don't count him in any way forward as anonymous, right? He has some signifier that it's a real human being. So all these accounts with 0 followers and it's always like a Chinese girl or whatever, those can all go. They're not real, right? There's no consistent tweeting record from that account. They're used to shit. You know, no, I'm not saying I prefer to go get rid of them. I'm just saying that there is a gradient of anonymity in Twitter. And if the smallest end of it comes off, it's not the conversation of, oh, anonymity in general is a good thing or a bad thing. Right? We're not having that conversation at that point, right? We're talking about how functionally some shit accounts on Twitter with no history, you know, barely a pic, no tweets, are clearly scams, right? I mean, how many of those do we see in a day? So if there's some way to just focus on, and I think I'm trying to be generous to Jordan Peterson at this point, right? It's like a sport now to make fun of him. I'm trying to understand what he meant, my best. I think what he means is those accounts, but I disagree with him personally because, you know, it's just his experience. So why do I give a shit if an account with millions of followers gets spammed by all these fucking accounts? I don't care. I don't have to change Twitter because he's having a bad experience, right? It doesn't affect everybody. So that's where I would disagree with Jordan Peterson, but I don't think he's talking about, I know we Bitcoiners will turn it into, oh, Satoshi was anonymous. I don't think that's what's happening here. I don't think that's the it's a separate conversation is more my conclusion on that. Just trying to put everything in its place and analyze it in a way that's helpful, right? But again, Justin, I agree with you. I am not waiting on Elon Musk to solve free speech. The more ascendant he becomes with this stuff, the more we ought to criticize him and be capable of not falling for mass formation psychosis because we think Elon Musk is a savior or something. No one's coming to save anyone here, right? Nobody. Only Bitcoin can save us, I think. And by that I mean only people who go through the process of individuation, of understanding personal responsibility, and then having the money be an expression of these new found intimately human skills, the things that make you not an NPC, right? The things that make you not an NPC. That comes organized through Bitcoin. So I'm not waiting on Elon Musk to save any of us. Again, the picture I painted earlier of the muggles and the wizards, he's a wizard, right? I think he's on our team. I'm acting as if he's on our team, and I will continue to act as if he's on our team. But I'm not counting on him to just win the war and then we're all great, right? I'm not doing that, all right? And if he needs to be abracadabra'd, then it has to happen. Don't want to wish ill on anyone, especially him. But we're playing for the future of the planet Earth here, right? No time for people's egos. Perhaps we need an uncensorable, decentralized platform. Tell you, we need to merge money and speech. Locked forever. Get rid of the two-party system. It would be a good start on the path. Yeah, never selling my Billy Lowe. Never selling my Tesla stock. I've noticed a few nodes in the Tesla network begin to call for Elon's removal. This is literally the worst thing Tesla could ever do. Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. Keep talking, Nolan. We're totally pumping. Pump stream. I didn't check the price. Zuri Bezmenov. I don't know who that is. PH. Zuri Bezmenov came to mind. Fauci is not science. Scientific method is the way, as Joe Valdez says. Yeah. Statins are pure evil, Justin says. Agreed. I'm trying to get my family off. It's so hard people just don't believe you, Happened in the Netherlands too. They pushed 2 glasses of milk a day narrative for decades due to milk surplus. That's why we're so tall and Americans are so fat. Man, are the Dutch ever tall. It's crazy. I feel like, I'm over 6 feet tall. Walking around in Holland and you're like, why am I so short? Right? Tallest country in the world. You'd see women regularly taller than me. Otherwise, it's lifeless white liquid. Yeah. Raw milk is illegal. No, it's not. Raw milk is legal. Not in the USA. Yeah, it is in Vermont, as Danielle Renault said. In Vermont, it's even like we have a constitution in Vermont, so it's even constitutionally like they can't take it away. But there is one limitation. We can only get the raw milk from the farmer. We're not allowed to, there can't be a third-party seller, which is great with me. I don't have any problem with that. I wish they'd pass more laws like that in a way, because of course the grocery stores are one of the worst cartels we live under. I mean, it's, we haven't even pulled back the layers that far yet to find out what the hell's going on there. It's awful. Yeah, in Pennsylvania, they arrested an Amish farmer for selling meat and raw milk locally. I wonder if it was a third-party seller that was doing it, though, Joe. I'm not sure. Bitcoin Graffiti, milk is carby too. Too much sugar, so much sugar. It's nuts how much sugar there is. Milk wars are real. Just-in-time milk. Thank you, government, thank the government for protecting you from milk. Danielle, bringing down the fiat industrial complex one block at a time. That's all it is. It's that simple, right? Drip, drop, one more block. I saw that. That was insanity. I guess Joe, not sure. The Chinese chicks for the accounts. Yeah, how many of those do you get? You know, it's like, hi, I'm inspirationally into Bitcoin. I mean, if they got rid of these, I don't think it's going to hurt Twitter, right? I mean, again, I'm doing a bit of mind reading here, you know, about what's going on as far as what Elon's thinking, or even what Jordan Peterson's thinking. I just think there is a nuanced subset, and so many people were quick to just say anonymous good, anonymous bad. Of course, we need anonymous stuff, and of course Satoshi, it's obvious, right? And not only obvious, always important to underline and reiterate. And I think you can use anonymous accounts in whatever is being discussed between Elon and others. I think it's going to happen. I don't think that the Dergidis or any of these people are going anywhere. I just think that there is room to have a conversation about the really, really terrible, no following, clearly spam, just shit posting, just toxic accounts. That's it, right? And I don't want it to happen, but I'm not going to lose my mind over people talking about it and say, Jordan Peterson, die, or you're so stupid, Jordan. I mean, he's not doing great, right? But there's enough people criticizing him now. I don't need to join in, right? It's like a sport now, which is good. He had it coming, you know. He had it coming. I'm not trying to defend him. He's a big boy and can handle himself. So there you go. Oh yeah, the other part was the double standard. You know, this is the one from Twitter files that Barry Weiss pointed out. All the world leaders that aren't banned, you know, they read in the case of Trump, they read in the American patriots, but then they went and looked at like Khomeini. You know, I want to kill America. He's still around. All kinds of these world leaders, and she goes to them all, like the guy from Myanmar, or something about the Jews, or that they're allowed to kill them, or something. Just crazy shit, like crazy, and they're still all on. So who knows? I would not be in the conversation if I could not be anonymous. Yeah, so that's the one point where I categorically disagree. And that's I guess my line in the sand when it comes to whatever Jordan Peterson is going on about with the anonymous accounts. If it's the anonymous, not in the conversation, like clearly just being part of a scam, right? Or just being nuts, that I can have a conversation with. If it's a person who's in the conversation and you do it because your work wouldn't allow you, I'm 150% behind that. I would quit Twitter if those people were targeted. I would not. It would be useless, right? It would be useless. You know, the usefulness of the anonymous accounts has been great for Bitcoin, has been great for dialogue. Would have had nothing if it wasn't for those accounts. I have very little track record on Twitter for that reason. Too worried about the back and trouble and what could happen and who knows. And so I stayed very far away from Twitter until recently, until Elon came around. I was not really willing to use Twitter regularly on a daily basis in order to have these conversations. I sat out the entire Trump thing on Twitter, never participated. I had other things going on in my life. Obviously, I've been just doing the Bitcoin thing, and that's really what it was. Is I didn't want any of that to overlap, right? I was working on Bitcoin. All the politics were so crazy. I just didn't want to be involved. So, but now it's easier. And as I said, I will never deny I did not participate in Twitter with anonymous accounts, but thought about it and would never deny the massive social utility that comes from not using your name and your real picture to participate on Twitter. But again, I think there's a separate category, and I'm just imagining the better angels around Jordan Peterson. That's what he's talking about. I could be wrong. But again, I would entertain conversation around that, not controls, but some kind of feedback system for those types of accounts to get rid of the bots, really, because those are bots, and you want to be able to filter them out. So there you go. There's so much going on that the SBF perp walk doesn't even rate talking about. SBF. All right, team. I'll be on at noon. Bitcoin Magazine Live. We'll do the news of the day. I'm sure some of these stories will come back up. We're definitely be talking about the SBF one. All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thanks for sticking around for the whole episode. I appreciate it. Our crowd's growing. We're growing. We're pumping. Peace.